Hey, what's up guys? Today in this video, let's talk about a pattern of coding which we can follow in Laravel, and the pattern is called pipeline pattern. Now, recently I read a beautiful article written by my friend Ahmed. Okay, he implemented this pattern in one of his project, and he very nicely explained how things are done. And I decided, obviously I will explain you what he did in this blog post. In general, he used the request object and added some filters. So that is something which I'll show you. And then there's one more thing which you can do, which will be my second example, which will allow you to get a little more clarity on how, or rather when, this pipeline pattern can be of great use to you. Now, to summarize what is pipeline pattern, what Ahmed said is very correct and to the point, which is whenever in any piece of code you are seeing a pattern where you are modifying the object in a sequence of things, right? That is the place when you use pipeline pattern. Okay, Laravel allows you, in this pipeline pattern, Laravel allows you to send an object through a series of classes using which you can modify the data, modify the object, and then that object is passed on to the next pipeline. Okay, so let's get started. Let's see how things can be done. So in this dummy instance, I have written a little bit of code. So I have around 1,000 users. I modified the default user model to have certain properties. So if I show you inside my database, the user table has a role property and a country property. Okay, these two columns I have added. That's the only change in the migration. Then in the factory, I wrote a little bit of code to support those two things using faker. So the faker random element is picking up one role, any random role, and then it is also adding a country. Last but not least, I have the seeder. In the database seeder, I have around 1,000 entries. So I've already done this so that I don't need to do it in front of you and waste time. But this is my initial setup. There is a route web.php. It has users. It loads up the user list controller, which has only one method. So I'm calling invoke. Okay, if you have multiple methods in a controller, you can define them. But if you have only one, then you just need invoke. Okay, single responsibility class. Right now, I'm paginating the user list with 20. Again, I'm just showing 20, not anything else. So you can see this is how it comes up. Now, there's a very common requirement that we want to filter this thing by, let's say, role. Okay, so what we are saying, we're saying, let's just say when, I can do when $request has role, so if it has a role, I will do query where role request input role. If I'm not wrong, this should work. Let me see. Do I need to return? No, I don't. So I'll come over here. Question mark role equals editor. Now it's taking a little bit of time, but as you can see now, all the users are editor. Correct? So basically, we modified it. But then, if conditions grow, you can see that we are, you know, we will have a lot of code in our controller, correct? Now we can move it to service, obviously, which is always an option. But then if you want to use pipeline pattern, this is one place where you can do. Why? Because we are actually modifying this query object, right? That is why I said that when you have a pattern where you're modifying object, this pattern can come in handy. So what we will do is we will now start modifying our code. So the first thing will be, let me change the code a bit. So let's say we have query, which is app. Okay, we call the global function. We use the pipeline class in it. This is how the syntax is. Okay, you will get reference of that in this article as well. Okay, if you see right this one, you can get the reference, and even you can follow my code, and you will be able to get the exact result. So we instantiated the pipeline class. To the pipeline class, we need to send the object which will be modified. So what is our object in here? It's the query. So let's send that. Take it to the next line. Now we have sent the object. We will need to send it through a pipeline. So as the word suggests, we have a method called through, where it takes an array. Okay, so that array will be, let's just say we have filters slash role filter, filters roles filter, right? So I'm creating a class. Let me quickly stub the code. All right, so we have something similar. Okay, this is one class which I created inside filters. So my namespace is app/filters. I have the class name as role filter, uses the closure, and this is the data which we are sending. So whatever we are sending here will be available to this class. Why? Because we are passing that through this pipeline. Okay, and once we have it here at the last, we do then return. Okay, this is the function, and after that we can run any kind of query or any kind of function which is part of this object. So because this is a query, I can run paginate. So I'll do this. Okay, for some time let's just do this, and I can make this as users. I think that should work for me. So with this, let's see if our code continues to work as it is. Okay, it worked. However, obviously the results will change because we never had any code to filter. So let me quickly do that. We need to put this in here, but how do we get the request? So if request has role, something like this, query we are getting where role is request input role. So now let's refresh and we get our result. So now you can see that piece of code which was initially there inside our controller has moved on into its own class. Now obviously this is only what, 1 2 3 4 5 lines of code, and this is literally a little more than that. I do understand, but again, this is just an example. Think of it, when you have more conditions to work with, this code can grow really large. For every condition you have at least 3 lines of code. And if the business logic is a little trickier, we can expect a little more. Whereas now in this way of doing things, our code is completely isolated. The business logic is inside a class file, right? And you can very easily read what is happening. Okay, we have a pipeline, we are sending the query, user query, we are passing it through all these things. And tomorrow, if you don't want to handle some part of the code, which is let's say a pipeline, you just comment out the class, and that's about it. So now suddenly the filter will not work. Even you can have checks like in the database thing, you can look for a setting whether role-based filter is still turned on or not, or maybe this user has the ability to like a permission check that whether this user can filter by role or not, many other things. So the thing, it's limitless. I think the scope is limitless, but you understand what is going on. So let me just for the sake of demonstration purpose, I'll add one more. Okay, we had role, we will have a country as well. So let me add that quickly. So I can pretty much copy a lot of the entire code in here and then just have country over here. Okay, and then in the array have country filter like so. Obviously right now it will only do it by editor, because in the query parameter we have role. And why don't I also do and country equals Italy. So we have only 2 records. That's a very bad example. Let me see if I have anything else. This repeats, but I'm not sure if how many I have. So that's the only thing. Okay, I had an additional slash, but okay, I have 5 for this country. So as you can see, we are able to do the processing through the class, and as I told you, we can run anything after the query is available. For example, order by descending ID, and 24, 29, 341, 728. Let's run. Now it is ordered by descending ID. So when the result set has changed, so you can see this is so easy. You have the ability to run multiple filters, and then the entire object is available for you to do anything that you want, right? So this is the first part. Now let's look at how we can take a little more complex scenario and use the same pipeline pattern to solve a complex requirement. So to start with the complex requirement, let me do a thing. Let me create a command which we will use to interact with our code. Okay. So to create a command, the first thing that I would like to do is PHP artisan make. Let's say we do comment add. Okay. So what will happen is inside console commands, we will get this class. We will name it comment add. I need to add this to my kernel.php so that Laravel knows that this is the command which is available. So let me add that. Okay, and inside any command we have the handle method, right? The handle method is where our code will be executed. So what we want to do is, let's just assume that we will ask for a word from the user. Okay, so $word equals this ask. So type a word. Okay, something like this. Now obviously if we do this, and then if I dump the word, like this, PHP artisan comment add. Okay, it will ask for the word. So let me type hello, and it prints out hello. That's quite easy. I think most of you will know this. But then how do we use the pipeline over here? So let's just say we want to add a filter which checks for bad words. Okay, like let's just say we have a rule. So we have quite a few folders. Let me clean it up. Inside app, let's have rules. Inside rules, or maybe inside filters, I'll just add bad word filter, something like this. Okay, oops. So I'll stop the class. So we'll pass the word which we will get, okay, from the user, and obviously the rest of the code are going to be generally the same. Okay, so in the bad word filter, let's just say for the sake of this tutorial on this video, let's just say we have an array of bad words which we want to check for. Pretty simple. So we don't allow bad, we don't allow lazy, okay, something like that. I really don't want to use any curse words during the video, but you get the point, right? So now what I'm going to do is if in array, so which is my needle is the word and my haystack is the array of words. If it is present, then we return false. Okay, and now let's add one more, which is, let's just say greeting filter.php. Let me copy a little bit of code from here, paste it. Greeting filter will still have the handle method. Let's get rid of these things. What we will do is $word equals $word dot no hello, and then the dot. Okay, so whatever is coming, we will add a hello to it, and then we will return. Pretty straightforward, right? So the way we implemented pipelines was we first, we got the word, then let's just say our final word is, we instantiate the pipeline class. Okay, we send the word. That's how this bad word filter will get this, and even the greeting filter will get this word. Okay, so we send through an array of filters, and then we do then return. Okay, and we return the final word. We will dump it out. Okay, so the filters first we will check for the bad word, because if the bad word is there, we don't want to do anything. Okay, so that's there, and then we have greeting filter. There's a greeting rule and there's a greeting filter. I don't know, I have a filter. Maybe it's the test class which I had created before I created the video. I don't know. Okay, but then let's try once more. Add a word, lazy, it returns false. Okay, and try once more. World, it prints hello world. So as you can see, what basically happened sorry, so basically you can see what basically happened is, if any of the filter or any of the pipeline class, right? If it returns false, then the rest of the things are not executed. Okay, so you need to understand that you can have a long list of filters, but then at any point, if one of your class fails, then the rest of the code will not get executed. So it is very good for things like, if you have an ordered object and you want to do a lot of things on top of it, and you don't want ideally things to happen if the previous thing failed. So this is a really good way of handling those kind of situations. Correct. I would say, like, if you have actually a comment moderation thing where you check for whether there are any curse words, whether the length is appropriate, whether it is the you can run an NLP to see whether it is too violent or something like that, right? You can do a lot of processing on it, and finally, if everything pass, you can say, okay, now everything is done, let me save the comment, and that's about it. So this is really the way where pipeline can really shine for you. One more thing, I think you would have realized that in all my filters I was always using handle, but then let's just say for the bad word and greeting I want to change the function name. Okay, I want to have this method handle be rather, let's say, process, or rather, let's say, filter. Okay, filter, is this a reserved word? I don't think so. Filter. Okay, so now obviously, as you can imagine, this will fail ideally. Please fail. It does. Why? It doesn't know which function to call, which is quite obvious. How will it understand what I have in my mind? But then, not virtual, but if I do filter like this and I run once more, we have the output. So you can see I do have the ability to define which function I want to be triggered inside my class when the pipeline has been triggered. So what basically ideally you should do is, let's just say, filter in TypeScript we do I filter. I can do interface. Okay, so in here, namespace, public function, let's do process. Okay, inside process we have, let's just say, data and closure. Next, something like this. Let me see, ideally this should work because it's an interface. So the interface has process, implements, filter interface, and it will then complain because obviously I don't have process. So I'll just change the function name in here, right? It works. Similarly, implements, filter interface, and then process. So now what happens is, at least you have some kind of a type hinting, so you can say that this is the function which is required, and so other developers would know if they want to add a filter, this is how this is done. Obviously you will expect them to read the code to understand what is happening, and the interface will definitely help you. So yes, thanks for watching, guys. That's Laravel pipeline pattern for you. I got inspiration from this blog post, as I mentioned, so I'll definitely put this link in the description below. Do follow Ahmed for his rest of the articles, and yeah, if you like my video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.